Hello everybody and welcome back to another Spirit Hunters Infinite Horde video. Today we are actually going to do a full character and weapon breakdown for that character at max level. This is before the new genie is set to arrive, Hugo, but he is still unknown on his release date, and I wanted to get something out there so you'd have a bit of a better understanding on who's good with what, why some things are good, and why some things are bad. So we're going to go through every single weapon on every single character, some pluses with that character, some minuses, why you may want to start with this weapon over others or not. So let's get started. We are going to start with Magnus. He is the character that regenerates 10 HP on level up, which is nice. That is a nice way to sustain yourself. You're talking, if you're leveling slowly or so, you're looking at like 40 to 50 levels on a run. You can get up to 80 to 100 or more in the higher ones, which does add up to quite a bit of health. But at the same time, if you are leveling up with full health, then this is completely useless. So if you are very low and you can get a lot of levels really quickly, this is nice. Other than that, not super useful. However, all of his abilities for things generally revolve around gaining hit points. So we will see that as we go. We have Vivian. She is the Magnet hero. As you can see, Soul Magnet increases in size by 5% every level. This is amazing. That's pretty much the only thing I have to say to it. She does have less hit points than Magnus here. Again, she does not have the hit point regeneration as well, so her survivability is a little bit lower, but the Soul Magnet size definitely makes up for it. This is, I think, the best ability of all of them, because more levels mean more kills, and more kills means everything is going to be fantastic in your run. We have Conrad over here. He is giant. It says 200% health increase and do 2 damage mitigation but reduce movement speed. His speed is quite reduced. As you can see, we are going from 130 to 85. That is a solid reduction. However, his health is also massive. He has 377 health. Do remember, hearts are heal based off of your HP. So the more health you have, the more they will heal you. So Conrad does get the most effectiveness of those hearts. Plus, any healing he receives, all the damage reduced by 2, right off the bat. So that is fantastic. Another thing to note, though, with him is his size is larger. His actual model is larger than the others. I believe it is easier to hit him. So he is definitely the tank. He takes the hits, but he can heal for more, and he reduces the damage. And last but not least, we have Maxine, who is also fantastic. All of them are good in their own way. Maxine, the Red Witch, she has 30% movement speed, which is amazing. The movement speed increase is fantastic. It's the exact opposite of Conrad, obviously. Now, that being said, we have a movement speed of 130 over here. We have a movement speed of 156. I would say that's 20%. You know, that would be 26, not 30%. But hey, what can you do? That's all I can say there. But her health is reduced by 75%. And again, as you can also see, 195, well, 104 is not 25% of that. She does get the added bonuses of the +2s, which I believe are consistent, and the 10% bonuses, so it actually adds up to be less than 75%. It's a little bit closer to 50% of Vivian, a little bit more than 50% of Magnus, and about, almost a quarter of Conrad over there, the big beefy boy. But let's get to the weapons. We're going to go through every single weapon on each character, and then we will see how they play out. Now, starting with Orbital Fire, I am going to go over the stats for them as well. So, Orbital Fire starts with a base speed of 231 and gets +66 on level up at a 40% increase per level up. Its dot speed starts at 1.6, and it gets a 10% dot speed reduction. Unfortunately, due to the way the level ups work, you don't actually see decimal places in this, so you have to trust that it is doing the 10% accurately. The damage starts at 12. Again, these are all max level stats, and increases by 1. So it goes from 12 to 13. And then the size, starts at 5 and gains 25% increases, so the next upgrade goes to 6.3, and so on. Now, with Magnus over here, we have 10 HP recovery per upgrade. You can have at most 41 upgrades, so this will be, 40 upgrades, I guess it starts at level 1. So you have 40 upgrades, so this has a potential for 400 hit points. If you combine this with his health on level up, that means certain level ups, you can sort of plan out to gain a nice boost of 20 health, which is nice. That is handy to have. The one thing that is nice about this is sort of on demand. You can sort of plan your level ups around this and say, oh, okay, I wasn't going to get an orbital fire upgrade, but because of this, it'll help me survive, and that's a nice thing to have. Vivian over here kills with orbital fire, have a 25% greater chance to drop blue souls. This will be the standard that you will see for Vivian. Pretty much most of her weapons do this, not all, but most. So this is just fantastic. When you get to the top portion of the web, you gain an extra 20% chance. So both of these combined, it's almost 100%. You will gain so many blue souls with this effect on whatever weapon it is. It is great. So this on orbital fire is fantastic. There may be better weapons for it, but on orbital fire, it is actually a very good choice. Conrad over here, orbital fire is 50% bigger. This is a double-edged sword. On Conrad, it's almost necessary because his model is so big. If it wasn't bigger, it would basically not give him any protection at all. But that being said, bigger is not always better. I do like it when orbital fire gets very big, as long as the speed is maxed out. However, at the same time, the bigger it is, that also means that if something gets in that circle, it's dangerous. So the bigger the circle is, the less protective it seems to be. But by making it bigger, it also makes the fireball bigger, so I am a fan of bigger things. But if you do not like a bigger orbital fire, then obviously this is not a good pick for you. And last but not least, orbital fire speed is increased by 20%. This is far better defensively. The speed of orbital fire is how fast it rotates around you, and it rotating around you is key. Obviously, the faster it rotates, the more circles it will do, the more circles it will do, the more things it will hit. The more things it hits, the less things hit you, because it should be killing them. So this is a huge increase for its defensive properties, so it is quite nice as well. Moving on to the almighty overpowered cleave, which even the devs know is overpowered. Kills with cleave has a 2% chance to drop a heart. This is stupidly good. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry. There's no two way to put it. Cleave is overpowered right now, with an overpowered cleave, hitting half of the screen. If it's hitting half the screen, killing everything on it, getting 20 kills a third of a second, or more. Let's say it gets 100 kills a second. That's 2 hearts every second on very big farm waves. Now, not on very big farm waves, obviously, it's not as impactful, as you might only be killing 5 things a second, because there's only 5 things in your way, but it's still killing everything. There are so many hearts here, it's ridiculous. That being said, at low levels, when cleave isn't really killing that many things at once, this isn't as impactful. 2%, you have to kill 50 things to be quote-unquote guaranteed. That's not exactly how numbers work. But at the same time, let's just go with bad math here. Let's just say every 50 you get 1. That's a lot of kills. With a low-level cleave, without the area, without the speed, that might be a little while before you get those kills. And especially at lower level, you will have other things that are killing things instead of just cleave. So this isn't going to be as impactful at lower levels. At higher levels, it's just tons of health. That's no way two ways around it. Kills with cleave on Vivian, having a 25% chance of dropping blue souls. Guess what? This is the same thing, and cleave being the overpowered massacre that it is. Basically just means everything you kill is going to be dropping a blue soul. She's going to be picking it up. Because she's picking it up, she's leveling so fast. Because she's leveling so fast, her magnet's going to increase, which means you're going to be able to cleave the entire area without the magnet pet and still pick everything up. Just do it. It's beautiful. It's lovely. End of story. On Conrad, the knockback is 3 times stronger. Cleave is one of the few weapons that has a decent knockback to it. 3 times stronger than knockback is just amazing for protection. Low-level monsters or weaker monsters, obviously this has no effect on, as it just will kill them outright. Larger monsters get pushed around. So this is a nice safety for those larger monsters that will hit harder and bust through his damage mitigation. So it's a nice safety measure. Maxine, cooldown reduced by 20%. So, cooldown reduced by 20% is amazing. The reason this is amazing is because it also reduces the final cooldown by 20%. It also reduces your upgrades by 20%, so instead of what is it? For cleave, the upgrade is 0.15. Actually, I will go over the stats after I go over the characters. But it's 0.15, so it will reduce that by 20% as well. But the final result, instead of being 0.3 seconds, is 0.24 seconds, which means instead of hitting roughly 3 1/3 times a second, you are hitting a little over 4 times a second. That is a huge, huge, huge increase at max level cooldown, so this is a dominant thing. With her movement speed, it's amazing. That being said, you won't be leveling as much as Vivian, so there is a fact to take, or a point of consideration to take there. Stat-wise, Cleave starts at 10 damage, gets +2 per level at max. The size starts at 13.5 at max, with 25% increases, moving it to 16. That 25% is based off of the base 10, I do believe. The cooldown rate is 1.8, with a 0.15 reduction per level, which, again, max level is the 0.3. And with this cooldown here, it is 0.24, which is amazing. And then the crit starts at 28% with a 5% increase per level, which is, again, very, very nice. You can get it to almost 80% crit. It's beautiful. Moving along to Arrow, I will do the stats first this time, appropriately. So, our Arrow here, we are starting at 18% crit with a 5% gain. We are starting at a 10 size with a 30% increase, so we're going from 10 to 13 and 16, 19, so on. We have a cooldown reduction of 0.1. This has been changed in the most recent patch from 0.15. It starts at 1.2 seconds, and with this 0.1 reduction every level, it will get down to 0.2 seconds, giving you the 5 shots a second, which is not terrible. It's nowhere near what it once was, but it is, it's a solid mid-range now. And its damage goes from 13 to 16 by getting 3 damage per level up. There is currently some issues that when you get your damage above maybe the mid-40s, the low 40s, crits no longer seem to work or appear. The dev is aware of this. I do not know if the result is they no longer work or they are just not displaying properly, but that is just something to be wary of. Now, as we can see, 20% chance to heal 1 HP on cast. If we are casting 5 times a second at our maximum level, that is essentially, again, it's not exactly, but it's roughly 1 HP a second. That's not too bad. I mean, every minute, that's 60 health. Now, that being said, you are probably gaining multiple levels a minute, so, the upgrades may outweigh it. But for the most part, just guaranteeing 1 HP a second, that is a fairly solid amount of health, or just consistent health, I should say. It's not going to be nearly as much as a cleave, but it is consistent. And you don't need enemies around you to get it. You don't need to go pick up a heart. It's literally just, you're just passively healing. So it's not too bad. Vivian here. Oh, she doesn't get the 25% increase for this. Oh, how funny. It's actually significantly better. It's just a guaranteed blue soul with the Arrow. That's amazing. With the changes, the speed changes, that it's not, the beam of death, it doesn't really matter because it gets to hit so hard that as long as you're hitting something, it dies. And if it dies, it drops a blue soul. That being said, for surrounding enemies and things like that, you're not going to easily kill the whole swath of things with the Arrow alone. Other things may take its kills. So I think it's, again, not as good as Cleave, but again, Cleave is overpowered. But a very nice touch is the fact that everything will drop 1. Conrad here, Arrow's 25% bigger. Bigger is just hit more stuff. I mean, that enough said. It's not a bad thing. Hitting more stuff is good. I will take it. And yeah, you can't really complain about just hitting more things. Not like the most thrilling. Again, cooldown is always better and things like that. But it's nice. And here we go with Maxine's new changes to talents. I have a feeling Cleave will become along these lines at some point, and it is sad to me. But it starts with 3 ranks put into Arrow. Cooldown rate, which again would be 0.3 seconds off, which is nice. This is nice. This is essentially 3 free levels. As we will get I'll even give you a little preview. Starts with 5 ranks in Grand Hex. This is essentially 5 free levels. So this is 3, this is 5. Again, better weapon for the most part, but at the same time, it's a little painful because other than 3 free levels, this does no extra bonus. No matter, you can still get all of your levels, and the arrow will be 25% bigger. You can get all of your levels, and arrow will always drop a blue soul. You can get all your levels, and arrow will still heal you. This just says you can get all your levels a teeny bit faster. So I'm a little disappointed with these. I don't think it is a good starter pick because of that. Moving on to the almighty spears. With the hotfix today, spears should now be able to crit, which is a fantastic thing. Spears have a base damage of 12 at max level, and they go up by 2. They have an AoE of 30, going up by 15%, and a cooldown reduction of 0.2, and they start at 3.2 seconds, which takes them down to about 1.2 seconds a cast, which, I mean, again, compared to Cleave, that would fire 4 times for every spear cast, which is pretty significant difference. The number starts at 5 with a +1, so you can get this up to 15 spears. That is a lot of spears coming out every 1.2 seconds. 30% chance to heal, 1 HP on cast. Now, let's compare this to arrow real quick. So arrow, 20% firing 5 times a second. Spear, 30% chance at maximum speed, 1.2 seconds. I mean, no comparison. Spear will never heal anywhere near what arrow is healing. Period. Even the base arrow starts at 1.2 seconds. And that's the max upgraded spear. So I would never take this on Magnus. I generally wouldn't take Magnus, period. But this is virtually useless as a starting synergy or a starting weapon if you are planning on taking certain other weapons, or most other weapons. Vivian, here we go, 25% greater chance of dropping blue souls. If this is your main wave clear, which it can do, with the AoE size, with the many spears, with the cooldown, it can definitely be a main wave clear weapon, so then it's just generating you all the blue souls you need. So perfect if you want this as your main weapon. Spears are 30% bigger. Bigger is always better. Hits more stuff. I mean, again, that's his primary synergy, so it's a nice thing to have. Conrad's things are nice. They're not the breaks, the make or breaks, but they're nice. Spears start with a 40% reduced cooldown, though. This isn't levels, this is reduced cooldown. So this has long-term benefits. So this, I would say, is definitely a top tier for her if you're planning on using spears as your primary. Again, if you're using, obviously, Cleave as a primary or something like that, well, that's perfectly fine. But as a primary, this is a very good primary to have. Moving on to the almighty vines, which, thankfully, the Hoodoo pet got a huge buff. So dot damage can get increased by up to 10 in a run. I should mention that for Orbital Fire as well. The dot damage can get increased by up to 10 with Hoodoo. And with that in mind, the dot damage reduction at max level is far superior than the actual damage increases. Now, this is if you get Hoodoo. If you do not get Hoodoo, they sort of even out 10, depending on your rotational speed. So, but the dot damage is ridiculous with the Orbital Fire when you max it out. So moving on to Vines. Kills with Vines have a 5% chance to drop a heart. If you have any sort of major clear, that being Spear, Cleave, Arrow, Tornado, Vines probably won't get very many kills, so it's not going to be a huge benefit. However, if you do not have those and you're using Vines as a clear / way to go, then this is actually pretty good. You can get your Vines relatively big. You can be killing 20, loads of guys. Not the best, but not too terrible. And benefit to the Vines. In the most recent patch, the Vines themselves are targetable. They target the closest enemy to you. So that is fantastic. Vines also, they start at 3 vines, uh, plus 1 per level. They have an AoE of 11, and that is increased to 12.5 or 15%, or 1.5 per level. And then dot damage starts at 6, and it's up by 1 per level. Now going to Vivian. Vines increase in size every 10 levels. This is not actually a soul increase. This is one of the few, if not only, non-soul increase things, and it increases in size every 10 levels. Now, what does this mean? In testing, it just means every 10 levels, vines get 1 extra point in AoE. So a level in AoE is 1.5. So every 10 levels, she gets 2/3 of a level point in the Vine's AoE, which is actually pretty substantial if you get her to the high levels. If you think about it, once you get, say, I don't know, well, every 3, you're essentially gaining 2 extra levels. Every 30 levels, you're gaining 2 extra levels in the Vine. So if you get to 60, that's 4 extra Vine size levels that are impossible to get. They stack on. So they make your Vines humongous, which is very nice to have. The Conrad heals 2 HP on cast. It's a nice, consistent heal. I mean, it's not up to chance. It's just every time it's cast, it's 2 HP. It doesn't have the greatest fire rate, but at the same time, you know, every 3 or so seconds, you gain 2 hit points, period. Not too bad. You know, great for longevity. With his damage mitigation, it can go very, very far. Dot tick rate increased. I do not have the official value for how fast this increases the dot tick rate, but combined with Hoodoo, this can do some substantial damage. This is probably the best way to increase, or only way really, to increase the damage of the vines. So this can actually be very substantial. I don't know the official numbers on how much the tick rate is increased, but it is quite nice to have if you are using a dot build, which I will be doing in a run in the next day or two. Moving on to Twister, maximum twisting, or tornado, I like to call it tornado, has a knockback that is a 20% gain starting at 7.5. Now this 20% is based off of the initial 5 that it begins with. So it goes from 7.5 to 8.5. The cooldown at max level, again, starts at 3.3 with a 0.2 reduction. So this does get to be about a 1.3 second cast time, and you can have probably about 2 to 3 twisters on the screen at a time if you max this out. Size starts at 10 with a 50% increase. It gets humongous. Just humongous. Period. And then number starts at 4 at max level with a +1 upgrade. 14 twisters is enough to cover more than half of the screen at max level with the size. So you have this impenetrable wall flying out of you. 10% chance to heal 10 HP on cast, so it's a 10% chance every second and change to heal 10 hit points. Again, we're going to compare this to Arrow as the base. Arrow here has 20% chance to heal 1 on cast, so you're roughly healing 1 every second. Again, very bad, rough math, but compared to this, it's 10% every 1.3 seconds. 1.3. So roughly every 13 seconds, again, really bad math, but every 13 seconds you're going to gain 10 hit points. In 13 seconds, you should gain 13 hit points with this, theoretically. If it was additive and not every time you cast, it's a chance, and blah, 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 blah. Probability, who needs it? So, realistically, Arrow should still provide more consistent, but at the same time, this can provide the big heal when you need it. Alternatively, this could give you your big heal when you're full, and then you start taking damage, and then it doesn't happen again for another 10 seconds. That can be bad, where just a little bit of healing could go a long way with the Arrow. So, take that at your own risk. Again, Much like the mighty arrow, all tornado kills will drop a blue soul. This is fantastic. Arrow is great at dealing with little enemies. It has a very long range. It goes through everything. So for small enemies, this will be a huge experience gain. That being said, it will not really kill larger enemies. So you're not looking to gain the blue experience from larger enemies, but a guarantee from the small enemies is very nice. Problem is you can't aim the twister. It just goes out and you just sort of follow it. So if it's not aiming right at the small enemies, well, maybe your small enemies die to some mines, or the vines hit them, or they get in bone shot range, or Grand Hex blows up on them. Well, then this is useless. So until you get enough tornadoes and the size is large, you're sort of like, oh, I hope it hits that group. Oh, I hope it hits that group. So early on, it can be a little bit of a detriment, especially with your other weapons interfering. Late game, though, it will just be a blue soul farm. Again, I still prefer the cleave because that's controllable and all the good stuff there. But again, cleave is overpowered, stated by everybody. Moving on, tornadoes are double the size. Honestly, with a 50% increase by level, this is essentially saying you get 2 levels. Now, you do get those 2 levels at max, but at max they're already big enough. Honestly, you don't even need to get them to max. So this is basically just saying, you can save like 2 levels. That's really all I have to say about that. Just, okay, thanks. I'll take it. But probably not going to take it as my primary. Start with an extra twister, though. Again, this is amazing early on. I mean, more twisters, more good. Great. At max level, you really have more twisters than you need. You don't even need to max out the number. Same thing, you don't need to max out the size at max level. So, realistically, this is just saying, you don't have to level maybe 1 or 2 times. So, while it starts really strong, if you go late game, this is actually not even a benefit, where you could be gaining hit points, or you could be getting blue souls with kills. Moving on to the bone shots. We have a base range of 17 at max level with a 20% increase. Again, this is based off the initial numbers, so it goes from 17 to 19. We have a cooldown reduction of 0.1, and this is off of the new patch, starting at 1.1 speed. So we are going from 1.1 all the way down to 0.1, so 10 casts a second. And then with that in mind, we have a damage of 11, going up by 3, so this does get very strong by getting 30 damage as it levels up. However, the one downside to this is that its crit rate is only a 3% increase per level. It is not 5 like pretty much every other weapon. So this goes from 23 at a start to 26 at the first level, and so on and so forth. So again, it does not have a huge crit gain, still can get over 50%. Now let's compare this to Era. 5% chance to heal 1 HP on cast, and we're doing 10 casts a second. 20% to heal 1 HP on cast, with 5 casts per second. So if we say, even if we do 10% chance to heal every 2 casts, that's 20%. Arrow's going to beat it. Arrow's going to get you more healing. Hate to say it. I do love you, Bone Shot. You are a better boss killer purely now, but for the healing aspect here, you just don't have it in you. You need to be 10% to sort of match up at the max speed. But that's okay. Your stun chance has been improved. The stun on the Bone Shot has been fixed, so it does stun in an AoE form as it should. Prior, it was only doing its little mini stun when there was only one target. Kills with Bone Shot have 25% greater chance of dropping blue souls. Again, an awesome feature. It's great. Bone Shot just sucks, though. It's a great boss killer, don't get me wrong. Love it to kill bosses. Big fan. Killing hordes of enemies, not so much. It only shoots up and down. Even if it shot up, down, left, and right, still wouldn't be as good as many other things. But just with the shooting that it has and its potential, you are not going to kill nearly as many things as basically anything else. So, skip it as a starter weapon, period. Not even a question. Bone is 30% bigger. Again, quite nice. I mean, bigger bones, bigger shots. definitely far greater things than this to have, because Bone Shot, again, only shoots up and down. So you're not going to be clearing waves with this being bigger, whereas with the spears being 30% bigger, that will be clearing your waves. With the knockback, that will be saving your life. With the arrow, that will be clearing the waves. This is just, you might hit one or two more things that are above and below you. I'll pass. Much like the era over here, this starts with 3 ranks put into Bone Shot cooldown. Again, this is essentially 3 free levels, 5 free levels, 3 free levels, 5 free levels. And again, this does not actually increase past the final cooldown, so this is just 3 free levels. Okay, enough said. I think you can see how I feel about that one. Going to the Grand Hex, big buffs to Grand Hex. Initially it was 18 damage to start with a 4 damage increase per level. With this current patch though, it is now 25 damage at max level, and it gets 6 per level up. This is the most damaging spell in the game now. Is a crit rate gain of 5%, taking it from 13% all the way up by 5% per level, a cooldown of 4 seconds with a 0.22 second cooldown reduction, bringing it down to 1.8 seconds at the end, and then a size of 132 with an 11 point gain per level. So what do those size numbers mean? I don't know. I just know it gets bigger per level. But 2 HP on cast, so 2 HP on cast. Guaranteed 2 HP on cast with a 1.8 second cooldown. Let's go back to our almighty arrow, which, if we are doing bad math, let's just say it's a guaranteed 1 hit point per second, and this was the best one that we had. This is a guaranteed 2 hit points every 1.8 seconds. This is indeed, at max rank, better, in theory, or more consistent than Arrow. Where Arrow, again, in a perfect world where we're gaining 1 per second, this could heal you 5 times in a second, if you're lucky. This could also heal you 0 times in 10 seconds, if you're exceptionally unlucky. So, we're just going with a bad math, you heal once every second. 2 every 1.8 is better. I mean, that's it. It's just slightly more healing. And it's consistent. You can count on it. Whereas Arrow, you hope that you'll get it, or you're not, you're SOL. So, sucks. Going to Vivian, though, we have another all kills with Grand Hex will drop a blue soul. Grand Hex size increases are pretty substantial. Grand Hex at max size, will be fairly large. It will kill huge groups. You can't control where it goes, so you have to get kind of lucky. But with it popping so frequently, it can actually be a very solid area killer. I have some runs on the pre-buffed Grand Hex with the stun added and the damage added. So it's definitely doable. It's definitely viable. And more blue souls, more good, honestly. So if you are using this as your wave clear, then this is definitely a fantastic option. Hey, guess what? Conrad stole Magnus's thing. 2 HP on cast. We already know that's pretty decent. I believe it does fire faster than Vines at max rank. At min rank, I believe Vines are faster, so the Vines 2 HP will beat it out if you never upgrade the cooldown of Grand Hex. But why get Grand Hex if you're not going to upgrade its cooldown? I guess just if you want a really poor weapon at the end. But why would you pick it first, I guess, is the thing. So, max cooldown, this will still be more HP. And again, it's decent wave clear. It will be your highest damage move with a stun tied to it. So this actually will be, viable, I believe. Ba-boom! This is the almighty 3 levels, 5 levels! We get 5 levels! So this is just 5 free levels. That's it. We get 5 free levels. Again, that's 5 levels. She does not gain experience like Vivian, so that's just a free 5 levels. So not bad. Definitely better than 3. I'd rather have 5 than 3. But again, there's no end game to it, to these. Again, you're not healing 2 HP on cast. You're not gaining extra blue souls. You're not healing more HP. It's just, I didn't have to level 5 times. But early on, I will say, early on, if for some reason you are choosing these, and maybe arrow may be viable for sure. But if you're choosing these, this does help you get some kills early on, and if you get more kills early on, you do level up faster because it's a snowball effect and whatnot. But I just don't see the long-term rewards nearly as much. I want to like it. I unfortunately cannot. Shadow Shuriken. I don't know. The patch removed what the starting synergy was, so let's hope that it's something similar to Bone, maybe. It fires pretty much just as fast as Bone. I'm going to go with its Bone. I think that's what it was before the patch. So let's just say it's 5% chance to heal 1 HP on cast. It'll fire about as many times as Bone. Arrow will still be better. That's what I'm going with. I have not done testing. This is back to the 25% greater chance of dropping a blue soul. I should do its stats. I am the worst at this, so I apologize. We have 4 key stats for this on Level Up. The stats are the number of shurikens thrown, and that starts at 8, increasing by 3 per level. Now, this number thrown can be a little deceptive. What this means is every time Shadow Shuriken is dealing damage, it takes about 3.6 seconds, something like that, 3.6 seconds to fire every shuriken you have in possession. So, in 3.6 seconds, if you have 8 shurikens, you're throwing them roughly every 0.4 seconds. Again, very rough math, doing it very quickly, I apologize. But when you have 38 shurikens, you're shooting them at approximately 0.1 seconds, a tiny bit faster than that. So it stays that window no matter how many shurikens you have. So the more shurikens you have, the faster they come out in that window. Now the cooldown starts at 5.6 seconds, and with a reduction of 0.2 seconds. When at max cooldown, when you finish your shuriken throw, you immediately start your next shuriken throw, which is why I say it's 3.6 seconds to throw out all of your shurikens. So, you have 3.5 seconds of throwing out all your shurikens, and then you immediately start another wave of 3.6 seconds of throwing your shurikens. If you do not reduce the cooldown, it's still 3.6 seconds of throwing out your shurikens, and then the cooldown hits. From there, we have damage, which starts at 10 and gets increased by 2. And then we have the almighty crit. Now, the almighty crit in this case is 38%. 38%. It's amazing. And it increases by 10% a level, which is even more amazing. So you can get this to 98% in 6 levels. It's fantastic. That's why this is one of the best boss killers, because it's a guaranteed crit. Crits are triple damage, and it fires every 0.1 seconds. So the targeting, kind of a downer, though. Each shuriken has a 50% chance of crit. Whoop-de-doo. Starts at 38, and you can get to 106 levels, basically. Saves you 2 levels, let's just say. 2 level save. Each shuriken has a high critical hit chance. From what I saw, this is a 10% gain. 15% gain. 10% gain. So, again, effectively saving you 1 level. 2 level save, 1 level save. I mean, nice, I guess? Nice. 5 levels saved. Just saying. Moving on to the final ability, which is the Mines. The Mines. They start at a 3.1 second cooldown. They have a 0.2 cooldown reduction, which brings them to a 1.1 second drop timer. They have a damage of 14 that goes up by 4 per level, so they can hit significantly harder than anything else, with the exception of Grand Hex over here. They have a dot damage of 3, which increases by 2 per level, and they have a size of 30.8 with a 10% increase going up to 33 per on level 2. Now, 10% chance to heal 3 hit points on cast. Again, we're going to compare that. So Twister, 10% chance to heal 10. with a 1.8 second. 10% chance to heal 3 on a 1.1 second. I mean, significantly worse, period. Significantly. Again, you're talking, let's just say, every 10 seconds, or 11 seconds even, we heal 3. Every 11 seconds, perfect world, we heal 11. So, bad. Bad. Kills with magic mines have a 25% greater chance of dropping blue souls. Again, fantastic. Dropping blue souls is amazing. However, again, along with some of these other things, are you going to be killing things as your main kill? Probably not. 25% chance to drop blue souls on mines. Chances are they will be dying to your spears, or your cleave, or your fire, or your vines, or your tornado. The mines, shuriken, bone, depending on what you're playing, arrow, vines, they are not generally your AoE wave clear things. So, again, you're going to be wasting your time getting them as your primary for Vivian. Mines are 50% bigger. Bigger means you can place them around your feet, and you are more protected. So this is a nice thing to have. Conrad, again, being very slow, you can sort of just build yourself a wall of mines right near you and hunker down. This is good for hunkering down. It's not gonna make you trek farther, but when you're completely surrounded and you didn't take orbital fire for some reason, and cleave eluded you, and spears eluded you, and you're just like, oh god, I hope things work out. Grand Hex, please hit over here. I need this one. Well, you can hunker down in your bigger mines, and that'll offer some protection. Yeah, it's nice. And a cooldown reduction. Again, 30% cooldown. The percentage base means the final cooldown will be reduced by that 30%, which does mean even faster mines. So she can be dropping mines like crazy. She is so fast, though, that you sort of run away from your mines. So she, you're not hunkering down nearly as much like Conrad. Conrad, the mines are, I don't want to say more useful, because I do find the mines very useful on Maxine, not as a starter weapon. But, you take what you can. So, what are the best weapons? Well, as we have seen, Arrow and Tornado are pretty much your kind of top tier-ish weapons for Magnus, with Cleave being the tippity top, because it's ridiculous and will always be ridiculous. And then also Grand Hex being a tippity top of the consistent heals. But it's also generally not considered one of the best weapons, especially with its random nature. The high damage, though, increase, plus the stun, is going to be a huge help. But with the random nature, especially starting with this weapon, you do get to pick another weapon very quickly, but still, it can be rough. With Vivian, honestly, you want this on whatever your clearing weapon is. So if you are going with the OP Cleave, take it on Cleave. Or you're going to go with a big, fast orbital fire, use orbital fire. If you are only going to be using spears or arrow, go with that. If you're taking Tornado, it's probably best to go with Tornado, because that's just going to kill all the small guys in the later waves, no matter what you do. So feel free with Tornado. I would definitely stay away from the ones that you're not going to be clearing waves with, generally speaking. If you have Cleave, Arrow's not going to be killing waves. If Vines, Bone, Shuriken, Mines, they're almost never going to be clearing waves regardless. So very much never taken on them. Even though the Vines increase in size, which is very nice, size does not win compared to just more levels. Conrad, this is actually a rather tricky one. Cleave is already so overpowered that the knockback really doesn't matter, but earlier on it can be very, very nice. Orbital Fire being bigger, if you are going with Orbital Fire and using that for damage with a lot of speed, again, a lot of his are just niceties. Arrow being bigger, again, not necessary, but if Arrow is your wave clear, I'm going to be spinning around in a circle and killing everything with Arrow, well then it being bigger is just what you want. So, for Conrad, for the most part, I would say the bigger options are nice. However, if you are going to be using utility, Vines, healing. Grand Hex, healing. If you are going to take Grand Hex at some point, say you take this and only upgrade Grand Hex's cooldown and nothing else. You never upgrade anything other than Grand Hex's cooldown, and you go take Cleave as your second weapon, and you max that out. Well, now you have a really strong Cleave that's destroying everything, and you're healing 2 HP every 1.1 seconds. So this is just a great utility. Same thing. If you're going to just take Vine so you have a slow, but you're not going to really upgrade it, well then just pop a heal on it. Your Cleave can handle all the things, the knockback isn't that necessary, and now you just have a passive heal. Fantastic. I will take it. Double the size, pass. 30% bigger for bones, pass. Two levels at best, pass. You know, mines are bigger. If you are very worried and need to hunker down, mines being bigger can help. However, if you are in the position where you are hunkering down that much, this healing probably would have given you like 50 health at that point. So, would that 50 health have helped more versus having slightly bigger hunker down ability? That's a question that I leave up to you. I would probably prefer to have the healing. So, for me, I would probably take just like Orbital Fire is bigger if I'm planning on using that. But the healing itself is probably my main second or third. Again, depending on whatever main weapon I choose. If I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to go a Spears run with Mine, Shurikens, and Twister or something, I'll do probably Spear or something like that. But if I'm going to be going Grand Hex or Vines and Cleave or something like that, that is my prime choice. Would be one of those two. And finally, we have Maxine. So again, for her, we're going to go Orbital Fire Speed. Nice if you are setting up a defensive wall, so that is a nice element to have. Cleave cooldown, amazing, period. It is glorious, it is beautiful, Cleave is broken, it is so powerful, so this just makes a broken thing more broken. So, good on Cleave. Arrow, 3 less levels. Pass. Spear cooldown. Hey, if you like spears, they always hit. They are very nice early on in the game. I believe they are better than Cleave until you get some levels because they are one of the few weapons that get +2 damage. So the cooldown reduction for spears is definitely valid. So I think earlier on, spear cooldown is valid. Later on, I would always take Cleave over spears. Again, unless you're doing challenge runs or fun runs. I change it up all the time just to see what is possible. Vine tick rate increased. I don't know too much about it, but it seems like it's fun. It's the only way to really increase the dot damage other than just 1 damage increases. So if its tick rate is increased by 50%, that's double damage, you know? So this has the potential to be a huge amount of damage. So I'm going to play around with that. Start with an extra Twister. Again, you're essentially just saying 1 level less. Great to help you start, useless at the end. Bone starts with 3 ranks. Fine to help you start if you're starting with Bone, which you really shouldn't ever. But fine if you start with it. Other than that, get this crap out of here. 5 ranks put into Grand Hex. Again, it's not a percent-based cooldown. So, I mean, I will say, 5 is better than 3. That's pretty much what this proves to me. 5 is better than 3. So if you start with Grand Hex, you know, it is quite a bit faster. This does make starting with Grand Hex very playable. However, it's not. It doesn't spark joy. Shuriken high critical rate, 1 level. Get this out of there. You dead to me. And mine start with 30% reduced cooldown. Nice to have, not that necessary. So again, for this, Orbital Fire, Spears, Cleave, or Vines are pretty much my top picks for a starter weapon. So this is my character and weapon breakdown. Thank you very much for joining me. Hopefully this was informative. Hopefully you agreed. If you disagree or have other thoughts or opinions, please say so in the comments. I want to hear everything. And if you want to see anything, let me know. I'm happy to do some challenge runs or anything like that. So just hit me up. So have a wonderful day, and thank you all for watching. Happy hunting, and get on out there. The patch is very exciting, except for the shuriken spot. Shh, we don't see anything. Goodbye.